James Mercer Langston Hughes was born February 1st, 1902 in Joplin, Missouri. His parents divorced when he was young, and his father moved to New Mexico. He was raised by his grandmother until he was 13, when he moved to Lincoln, Illinois to live with his mother and her husband, before the family eventually settled in Cleveland, Ohio. It was in Lincoln, however, that Hughes began to write poetry. After graduating from high school, he spent a year in Mexico, followed by a year at Columbia University in New York City, during which time he did odd jobs and managed to save and travel to Africa and Europe working as a seaman. In November 1924, he moved to Washington, D.C., and Hughes' first book of poetry, The Weary Blues, was published by Alfred Knopf in 1926. He finished his college education at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania 3 years later. In 1930, his first novel, Not Without Laughter, won the Harmon Gold Medal for Literature. For Hughes, Paul Laurence Dunbar, Carl Sandburg, and Walt Whitman serve as the primary influencers. Hughes is particularly known for his insightful, colorful portrayals of Black life in America from the 20s through the 60s. He wrote novels, short stories, and plays, as well as poetry, and is also known for his engagement with the world of jazz and the influence it had on his writing, as in his book-length poem, Montage of a Dream Deferred, published in 1951. His life and work were enormously important in shaping the artistic contributions of the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. Unlike other notable Black poets of the period, Claude McKay, Jean Toomer, and Countee Cullen, Hughes refused to differentiate between his personal experience and the common experience of Black America. He wanted to tell the stories of his people in ways that reflected their actual culture, and including both their suffering and their love of music, laughter, and language itself. The critic Donald B. Gibson noted in the introduction to Modern Black Poets, a collection of critical essays, that Hughes differed from most of his predecessors among Black poets, in that he addressed his poetry to the people, specifically the Black people. During the 20s, when most American poets were turning inward, writing obscure and esoteric poetry to an ever-decreasing audience of readers, Hughes was turning outward, using language and themes and attitudes, ideas familiar to anyone who had the ability simply to read. Until the time of his death, he spread his message humorously, though always seriously, to audiences throughout the country, having read his poetry to possibly more people than any other American poet. In addition to leaving us a large body of poetic work, Hughes wrote 11 plays and countless works of prose. He edited the anthologies The Poetry of the Negro and The Book of Negro Folklore, wrote an acclaimed autobiography, The Big C, published in 1940, and co-wrote the play Mulebone with Zora Neale Hurston. Langston Hughes died of complications from prostate cancer on May 22, 1967, in New York City. In his memory, his residence at 20 East 127th Street in Harlem has been given landmark status by the New York City Preservation Commission, and East 127th Street has been renamed Langston Hughes Place. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes, and nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Happy birthday, Langston Hughes. My name is Marc DeWitt, and this has been today's Black History Moment.